What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Touchline Talk Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before I get going, as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content I put out on YouTube every single week. So much to get into today. Another World Cup focused show. This first segment, all about U.S. women's national team, debriefing the group stage, a little bit of looking ahead. There are lineup graphics coming up later in this segment. I really dove deep into this and wanted to spend a large portion of this show just talking about what has happened so far and what it means moving forward. Obviously, the first thing to acknowledge here is that this team was inches away from getting eliminated in the group stage. I'm not going to spend the time to talk about what that would mean and the historical impact of getting eliminated in the group stage and all of that stuff. I have some general state of the program thoughts I'm going to save for whenever the US's run comes to an end in this tournament. But there is absolutely no reason it should have been that stressful. That was right up there with the worst performances in the history of the U.S. women's national team against Portugal. But ultimately, they survived. These World Cups are at a point where that does have to mean something. You're seeing it across the board with some of the teams that made the knockout round, some of the teams that have exited. This World Cup has been even more competitive than I thought it would be. You do have to celebrate the fact that you were able to advance and that you are still alive, because it is not a guarantee at this point for any team. Ask Canada, ask Brazil. So I did want to get that out of the way first. Obviously, it's not good enough. And so I'm going to start with the big picture and then kind of get more specific. And where I want to begin this conversation is just this idea that these three games, how the group stage went, would be framed differently and should be interpreted differently if the struggles that we are seeing were something new. There's this talk about, World Cups in the past sometimes, and I believe it was 2011. I might have that one wrong, 11 or 15, but I think it was 11. No, it might have been 15 even, where, group stage didn't go great. It's not like the group stage has always been perfect for this U.S. team. However, in the 2011 World Cup and in the 2015 World Cup and the 2019 World Cup, I'll throw that in there too, did the U.S. go into that tournament looking this shaky, with this many question marks, and this many losses to other really good teams as the rest of the world gets better and better? That's the difference here. And I feel like that is getting glossed over, and it needs to be emphasized. That is the most frustrating part of all of this for me, is that the issues you are seeing in these three games, generally speaking, have been there since the Olympics, and maybe even before, because obviously the Olympics didn't go particularly well either. And it doesn't look any different. There don't appear to be any solutions. Sometimes you have a bad stretch of games or you have a bad game, and you can turn it around within the same tournament. You have all these players just played this long stretch of NWSL games without playing many national team games. It could take a little bit for it to all gel. That's fine. But that's not what we're talking about here. That's England not having a particularly great first game and looking better and better as the tournament goes on. Or Germany having that loss and then to Colombia and regrouping from there and looking really good the rest of the tournament. This is a continuation of a trend that has been happening for months and months and months. And it hasn't gotten any better since this team has been able to spend multiple weeks together specifically trying to address these problems. To me, that is the headline, the most frustrating part, the biggest point of criticism for Vlatko Andonovski, for this coaching staff, for these players, is that nothing has gotten better. Which leads me to the Carly Lloyd part of this. And I'm assuming probably everybody who's watching this video has seen it by now, but Carly Lloyd really went into this team basically, paraphrasing, but basically suggested there's just not enough effort, not a high enough care level, not enough intensity. Was criticizing them for the, celebrating and dancing on the field, interacting with fans after the Portugal game, which I didn't love the optics of that either. To me, there's just a standard that needs to be upheld, and you didn't uphold it. There's very little to celebrate. Yes, you should be happy you got through. But I was not thrilled seeing those reactions on the field either. I wasn't thrilled that Lindsey Horan was laughing when Megan Rapinoe missed against Vietnam. The thought that went through my head was, that's only funny if you're not worried about it continuing to happen. And guess what? Now, it's more of a chance creation issue than a finishing issue, but the finishing hasn't been good the next 2 games either. If you were confident that that would get fixed, that's one thing. But there's nothing to suggest this is going to get fixed. So I was a little bit irked by that too. There is a difference, though, between not loving that and going where Carly Lloyd went and basically just saying this team doesn't care enough. I refuse to do that. Generally speaking, I refuse to do that with any athlete. And specifically this group. They have put so much into their careers, have sacrificed so much to get to this point. And they understand what it means to be on this team. Listen to any of them talk. And they understand the weight and the expectations that come with putting on that jersey as the premier women's national team in the world. They all get that. Now, are they all handling it perfectly at this moment? No, probably not. But to me, that's a bridge too far. And Carly Lloyd even seemed to backtrack and kind of say emotions got the best of her, and she took it a step farther than she should have, which I was glad to see. Because it's one thing, you can bring that up and it can be part of the conversation. But to make that the big criticism, to me, is completely unfair. What is fair is to say, where is the improvement? What is being done to try and fix this? And before I get into that part, the other thing I want to bring up here is that I understand for this team, rebuilding World Cups transition tournaments don't exist. Because it doesn't matter what team you bring to a tournament, you're expected to win. That's the standard this team has earned for itself. To me, that is one of the highest levels of respect you can give a team, is that you are just expected to win every single time because that's how great you are. And this team has absolutely earned that. So you don't get to kind of compare tournament to tournament, cycle to cycle in terms of what the actual roster looks like and what the squad looks like. It is, and this is not in any way an excuse or even a reason for what's happening. They should be way better than they've looked so far. But it is worth pointing out here in this conversation that this is a World Cup on the kind of in between 2 peaks when you look at this team. 19, you had a bunch of players in their prime. Megan Rapinoe was still there, one of the best players in the tournament. Alex Morgan, that midfield. You can go down the list. That was an all-time great team. Now you are transitioning out of that era and into the next one. So you have your center back, who's looked like probably maybe outside of Rose Lavelle, one of your 2 best players, who has played a year and a half of professional soccer. You started a midfielder who had not made an appearance for the U.S. national team until the warm-up game for this tournament, the send-off game. Now, I know Savannah DeMel wasn't supposed to be starting, but that was the reality in that first game. These kind of things don't happen with the U.S. Women's National Team. Your best player has never played in a major tournament. That's another one. And you're starting, as I pointed out in the preview, 2 strikers, 2 attackers under the age of, I think Sophia Smith is 23. I don't remember off the top of my head. Whether it's Alyssa Thompson or Trinity Rodman on the other side. And I know Lynn Williams started the last game, but you get the point. This is a very, very young Emily Fox at your outside back position. This is an incredibly young team that is going to be awfully good in 2027. When Naomi Girma is in her prime and Sophia Smith is in her prime with 4 more years of professional experience. And Alyssa Thompson is in 18, Alyssa Thompson is 22. And you then add the next group coming in. This is not supposed to be the peak. This is the valley. And I know it doesn't count for this team because they should still be right there with any team in this tournament. But I want to throw it out there as part of this conversation in terms of trying to figure out why this is happening. Because that is part of it. This team is not head and shoulders above everybody else. Both because of the injuries, because of the actual roster, and just the way that this is working from a squad standpoint, and who's making this team and what experience do they have. Kind of right, it's just a transition between eras. And because everybody else is getting much, much better, and now you have the best teams in the world on their level. It's all coming together, and what you've got, in addition to the poor performances, is a very limited margin of error that nearly sent the U.S. home on the group stage. Okay. Now, let's talk about potential solutions and lineups for this game against Sweden. I'm going to actually break down the round of 16 matchups in the next segment. So I'm not going to get too deep into the matchup itself. But I want to go through some potential options to try and fix this. Because we're at the point where you cannot continue to do the same thing. Because it is clear it is not working and it is not good enough to beat Sweden. So something needs to change. I have multiple proposals as to what that could be. So here we go. The first one. And this is specifically for the Sweden game, so Rose Lavelle is not in any of these lineups that I've made here. The first one is to go to a 4-4-2. And this is the lineup I would field. And I'll talk through some of the reasons why, and I've got different iterations of this 4-4-2. But the thinking here, and I'm certainly not the only one I've seen suggest this, is you move Crystal Dunn into a more natural position. You move her into midfield, and you get the extra body in midfield. Because too often this team has gotten overrun. It happened against the Netherlands, and it happened times against Portugal. So instead of going with a 3, you go with the 4, which then means you have to shuffle your back line. So I would move Emily Fox to the right and play Emily Sonnet or Kelly O'Hara, whoever you want, at right back. These are just the players I would pick. I have reasons for them, but obviously the idea is more tactical than it is the specific personnel. Especially, well, in some situations it's personnel specific, and I'll get into those. But generally speaking, it's about the tactics and the formation in the system. So now you have Crystal Dunn playing the position she plays every day for Portland. You have an extra body in midfield. You don't have Rose Lavelle, so you get Lindsay Horan playing in the 10. Just give her the freedom to get forward, minimal defensive responsibilities, give her space to operate, let her do her thing. I would start Lynn Williams on the right because I want somebody I know that is going to track back and to cover ground and to put the work in. And I have more confidence in her than I do Trinity Rodman in that aspect. And Trinity Rodman has gotten 2 opportunities and it hasn't looked all that great. So it's not like she's really cemented herself as a starter. You can pick either of them. You can pick Alyssa Thompson. I'm just going with Lynn Williams because I know she's going to give me something that I find important. And also what this does is it gives you some flexibility that you can kind of turn it into a 4-3-3 in attack if you want. You know, move Lindsey Horan to the right of the three, move Julia Ertz a little bit higher, and then you've got your front three that started last game. So you can push Lynn Williams forward and you can trust her to do the defensive work. That's why I have her on the right. And then I've been saying this from the very beginning, but Julia Ertz is playing holding midfielder. There's an argument. It's her or Rose Lavelle, the most important player on this team. And it's because one of the issues, as I talked about, that has not gotten addressed is the fact that nobody has played that position the way Julia Ertz can. I don't know what else Vlatko Andonovski has to see to make this change. At this point, I'm just assuming it's not going to happen. But if I'm in charge, Julia Ertz is 100% playing holding midfielder. Naomi Girma, and I talked about this in the first game, if you wanted to say, I wanted to put somebody experienced next to Naomi Girma for her first World Cup game, that's fine. Naomi Girma does not need anybody holding her hand. She does not need any help. She has been one of, if not the best player on this team in the tournament. She is sensational and incredibly mature, incredibly intelligent. I can't say enough good things about her. She doesn't need Julia Ertz next to her. So I'm putting in Alana Cook. I would have done this from the start. I don't have too much else to say about that. This is what I would do. And I just naturally, it makes more sense as a diamond because Lindsey Horan's going to get forward and Julia Ertz isn't. So that's my thought process for making it a diamond. I like the tactical flexibility as I talked about where you can kind of shift from a 4-4-2 to a 4-3-3, keep that idea, but give you something different in midfield with Crystal Dunn and 4 players that are actually going to help you defend in the midfield. The second iteration is very similar, but this is, okay, Vlatko Andonovski wants to keep Julia Ertz as the center back. So you put Andy Sullivan in, Christy Mewis, whoever. Now, what this could turn into, and I'll talk about this more with the next setup, is this could be something that works better with Rose Lavelle. But obviously you don't have her for the next game. That was an incredibly unfortunate yellow. The first time I saw it, I wondered what in the world Rose Lavelle was doing, and then I saw the replay, and she clearly got shoved. I don't think there was anything she could have done about that. It is what it is. You got to move forward, but that was incredibly just unlucky. So you keep Andy Sullivan in her position. Same idea. Move Crystal Dunn to midfield. I just kept Lynn Williams again. You can interchange the players if you want. But the big thing here, and this is where I'll talk about kind of the other part of the 4-4-2. The benefit outside of getting the extra body in midfield is that you give Sophia Smith room to operate. I talked about this when the roster was announced. For all of this conversation about there's no backup forward for Alex Morgan, no center forward, no number 9. I never bought into that because there are 3 players in this starting lineup right next to me that play as some kind of central forward for their club team. Most of the attackers can play through the middle. Alex Morgan is not the only one capable of doing it. And by the way, Sophia Smith is a better forward than she is a winger. She's a world-class player at both because she's the most complete forward I have ever seen. Because she can do everything that you want a winger to do, and she can do everything generally that you want a center forward to do. 1v1, creativity, finishing, hold-up play, connecting passes. She's got all of it. It's what makes her so special. But when she's playing as a wide player and doesn't have a lot of space to operate, and you're not getting a lot of balls over the top for her to go chase down, it's just easier to kind of isolate her and double team her and take her out of the game. Because it's not like she's having trouble beating people 1v1. There are just too many bodies there because everybody knows how dangerous she is. So you go to a 2-forward setup And it's more natural for her, and it gives her more space, more lanes to run into. And I'm keeping Alex Morgan in this starting lineup because although it hasn't been great at times, some of the best stuff you've seen from the U.S. came off of Alex Morgan's hold-up play and her knockdowns and her ability to hold and distribute the ball. So to me, she's still got a starting spot. That's option number 2. Option number 3 is to forego the holding midfielder altogether. And this is the one that if Rose Lavelle was healthy, I would consider. I would make it more of a 4-2-3-1 and still have Lindsey Horan and Julie Ertz playing a double pivot. Kind of like the U.S. men do with Yunus Musa sometimes. Drop Horan deeper. And also then when you're in attack, let her go because you know Julie Ertz can handle it. But obviously Rose Lavelle not here for this game. So pick your other midfielder. To me, I would go with Savannah DeMello. She's not a starter when this team is at full strength. But she got a raw end of the deal in that getting pulled at halftime of the Netherlands game. It was because she was the only player that was going to come out. It was just the sub that had to be made for Rose Lavelle. But she was the one who was actually making things happen in that first half. Drawing fouls, winning the ball back. If somebody's got to play in that spot, to me, she's earned another opportunity. And then it's the same ideas. This is, again, assuming Julie Ertz is playing center back. So you've got and obviously Crystal Dunn now in midfield, so switching it back, Emily Fox on the left, Emily Sonnen on the right, to get that extra body in midfield. I've talked about most of the other thought process with this. And then the final one, if you want to keep it as a 4-3-3. And once again, this is just assuming that Julie Ertz is not playing central midfield. Here is the other thing you can do to shake things up. You keep your back 4. You keep Andy Sullivan. You put Savannah DeMello or whoever else in there for Rose Lavelle. And then you give Sophia Smith the number 9 position. And you say, we're not going to try and play with Alex Morgan dropping deeper to then play the ball ahead to our wingers. We're going to go for the pace and the 1v1 ability. And we're going to let Sophia Smith do what she does best and get her in her most comfortable position. I would change the formation. But if you are determined to play in a 4-3-3, this at least is something different. And I also feel like Alex Morgan has done enough to earn a starting spot. But if you want to do this differently, and again, you can replace Lynn Williams with Alyssa Thompson if you want to replace Trinity Rodman with Alyssa Thompson. The point is to get 3 players with incredible pace and 1v1 ability out there. And see if that gives you what the system and the philosophy they have been playing with hasn't so far. So those are the 4 different lineups you could field against Sweden that give you something different than what you've seen so far. And I did this in part to highlight where I started, which is where I will end this conversation. This has gone on for too long without something being done to change the situation. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But the one thing you cannot do is continue to do something that is not achieving the results you want. That, to me, is inexcusable. That is where I have a really hard time buying into what you're doing. You have to be able to recognize when it is not working and try to change the status quo. And Generally, the group stage is not somewhere you have to do that. But it's been that bad, and the other teams are that good now. And so you have this Portuguese team that very nearly knocked the U.S. out, and now your punishment for not being good in the group stage is that you're facing Sweden in the round of 16. I'm going to make predictions for these games as I preview them, so I'm not going to say anything here. But to me, those are your options because something has to be done. The way this has gone over the past 2 years, the way it's gone in the group stage, there is no justification to roll out another 4-3-3 with Andy Sullivan at holding midfielder and Alex Morgan at striker. To me, that is not an option. If you do that, you have to win the game. Plain and simple. It's one of those kind of win-lose or lose-lose situations. I guess to a certain extent that kind of didn't come out the way I intended it to. But you get what I'm saying here, that you're not going to get any credit for making the change. And if it doesn't work, you're going to get hammered. Or you're not going to get any credit for winning the game by doing the same thing that hasn't worked. So you're not going to win either way. You can win on the scoreboard, but you're not, from a PR, publicity, fan perspective, you're not going to win anything by doing the same thing that hasn't worked and it works this time. So to me, there is no upside in that. You got to try something different. And if it's a train wreck in the first half, then go back at halftime. But I just find it hard to believe it can be worse than what we've seen so far.